Hey everyone, I'm finally back after recovering from my cold. My voice is still a little bit croaky and I sound a bit silly, but at least I can talk now without it hurting. And before I was like, it would have been ridiculous to try and make a video. So thank you for being patient with me. Thank you to everyone who sent really nice, get well soon messages and stuff like that. Today we're going to be looking at the transformed wife again. Her latest blog post isn't one that's necessarily as kind of like dangerous or over the top or like out there as some others that she's made, but I just think it shows a real kind of lack of understanding basic human emotions, which is why I thought it was quite an interesting one, and one that kind of we could talk about and kind of discuss some things. It's all about the role of housework, and it's titled No One Wants to Take Care of the Home. Before we kind of get into reading her blog post itself, here's something basic that I thought everyone already knew, but apparently it does need saying again. Human beings are individuals. Every person has different goals, different needs, different wants, different things that make them happy, different things they want out of life, different things that they class as achievements. What our goals are, what our needs are, what our wants are, what we enjoy, that can and does change over time. It's never exactly the same for someone throughout their entire life, right? No two people are ever completely the same. And while there might be certain trends between groups, for example, you might say X group are more likely to enjoy such and such a thing, or Y group are more likely to go into such and such a career. While there are definitely trends there, we shouldn't use these trends to dictate rules, to say that only people with X characteristics should do Y job. For example, only people born with a penis should be builders. You know, that kind of thing. But the point is, I don't think we should ever force certain life paths or career paths or any kind of life choices on individuals just because they share characteristics with a certain group. I think everyone should be open to make their own choices in life and do their own things and figure out what works best for them, what makes them happy, and what they want to do. I figured this was a really basic thing. I figured this was a thing that everyone understand. But apparently for someone like Laurie Alexander, the transformed wife, this is just something that she just doesn't get. She seems to think there's one correct way for all men to live their life and one different correct way for all women to live their life. And if you don't follow this life plan of hers, then you must be unhappy or angry or sad or unfulfilled, and she pities you, and you're all wrong, and you're all going to be unhappy forever and ever and ever, and then burn in hell. It's ridiculous. Her latest blog post, as I said, is titled No One Wants to Take Care of the Home, and honestly it's not as bad as some of her blog posts, but I do think it shows, especially for someone of her age, it shows incredible naivety, but more than that, it shows a willingness to look for problems where there aren't problems. And it shows that it's almost like she wants to be angry. She wants to complain about these things. She wants to criticize other women for honestly no good reason. And I think it's a bit of a shame. I think it's a very telling blog post about her and her views of the world and how she sees other people. I'll be honest, it almost makes her sound jealous. You know when young women are really insecure about themselves, right? And they're really insecure about something in particular, and they put down other women or they put down other people who are doing something different from them because they're insecure about their own lives and their own whatever. Those girls are like, oh, look, her shoes are so ugly because they're jealous that they don't have new shoes or something. It's like that, but for the entire life, basically. All her blog posts have the basic theme of, oh, you have a fulfilled life and you're happy? What a disgusting slag, you're gonna hell. It's all that kind of theme, and like I say, it kind of screams jealousy and insecurity, which is kind of interesting, but also, it's sad, I might be wrong. Maybe she's not jealous and insecure. Maybe she's just angry and bitter. Either way, I feel like I've got to the point now where I've read so many of her blog posts and so many of her ideas, and I've felt so personally attacked by her that I don't think she has these really good intentions anymore. I think she's just a bitter woman who wants to spread that hate and make everyone else feel bad about herself because she's missing something from her life. And as horrible as that is to say, and I'm really sorry if that comes across as bitchy, and I'm really sorry if it comes across as nasty, it's just, that's the only logical conclusion I can come to anymore for why she's still spreading this misogynistic crap. So, in the opening of this blog post, she writes, "Women entering the workforce has caused war between the sexes. Women want to take over men's roles, careers, but most men don't want to take over women's roles, keepers at home." I can't believe in 2019 there's still any debate over whether women should enter the workforce. This is so ridiculous at this point. Why are people still talking about this stuff? Is it not just a part of life now that all responsible adults should be able to have a job and fend for themselves and look after themselves? I don't know about a war between the sexes, but I think instead, women entering the workforce is just showing that it's so unnecessary now to have strict gender roles. It's so inconsequential, this idea of sexual dichotomy. I really want Laurie to give me one good reason, right? Without quoting the Bible and without saying, well, traditionally in such and such a society, without using either of those things, if you can give me one good, rational, logical reason backed up by evidence as to why women shouldn't have careers or why careers are only men's roles, if she can give me one good reason as to that, I'll shut up. But I don't think she could. And since someone like Laurie clearly doesn't understand the concept of trans people existing, I have to ask her, when she says careers are men's roles, what is it about the penis that she thinks makes men better suited to being paid for actions over someone with a vagina? I did start to have a think about these ideas a little bit, and I thought, well, okay, some people might argue men are better suited to careers than women because of, say, physiological differences, right? Men tend to be more muscly or stronger or taller or whatever, so maybe they're more suited to manual labour jobs like building or plumbing or wood cutting. There are so many more jobs and careers out there than just manual, physical jobs where honestly strength and size doesn't even come into it. So that's, a completely outdated and silly argument if you ask me, and it doesn't cover the whole point. Okay, so what about the argument that some people put forward that men are more intelligent than women, and therefore even when it comes to things like the office jobs and the thinking jobs and whatever, you might say, well, men are better suited to those jobs because they're smarter. Well, no, because there is a trend, especially in the UK, of females leaving school, college, university, being better qualified than men. They perform better in exams, they perform better in coursework, they overall come out with better grades than men, which means that by their early 20s, women tend to be in a better position than men, and in the UK, women in their early 20s are earning more than men in their early 20s. That's just the UK though, I don't know about anywhere else. But the point is, in that case, it could be argued that if one gender is more intelligent than the other, it could be women. So therefore, that's not really an argument for me as to why men should have careers and women shouldn't. But the thing is, both these arguments to do with one gender being more intelligent or one gender having physical strength over the other, they're both silly and flawed because you can't deny individuals access to something based on a group trend. Does that make sense? I know that sounds really, really vague, but what I'm saying is just because men in general may be stronger than women, they may be a little bit taller than women, they may be more muscly than women, it doesn't mean there aren't very, very capable female builders and soldiers and plumbers and woodcutters out there. If there is a woman who is strong enough to do that job, there is a woman who is physically capable of doing that job, there is a woman who is trained to do that job, you can't deny her the right of doing that job just because she's a woman. And if you had 3 men who were weak and small and weedy and they weren't trained in any kind of say they were going for a builder's job, they haven't done any training. If you have 3 men and 1 woman who is strong, she is capable, she is trained in being a builder, if you give the job to one of those weak, underskilled men over the woman, you're an idiot. The point is, when you're giving jobs and stuff like that, you should give the job to the individual who's best suited for it. Not anything based on gender or age or ethnicity or this or this. That sort of stuff's stupid. Go for the person who is the most qualified. It's why you can't deny a whole gender access to something. It's why you can't deny them and say that women shouldn't have careers because there is a trend among some that this. It's stupid. Base it on the individual, not the group. It's as simple as that. Another argument, though, might be that if you want to look at, like, say, the brain structure of men and women, and I'm talking, like, biological men and women here. I don't know what the results are for these studies being done in trans people, but I would be very interested to know. But neurological studies done on people who are biologically male and female, looking at their brain structure, it seems that women's brains in general are basically structured differently to men's. And the conclusion of this is that it seems that is the reason, the physiological differences in the brain are the reason why women in general are a little bit better at emotional thinking and emotional processing than men are. And men tend to be a lot more logical and rational and kind of think things through practically rather than fueled by emotions. There is a reason for that. And so some might argue, well, women are too emotional to have a career. But again, that's stupid, because again, it doesn't account for individual differences in people. I know plenty of men who are very emotional. I know plenty of women who are very logical and rational. Just because there's a trend in the group, it doesn't mean everyone in that group is like that. But more than that, not every career is suited towards logical, rational thinking. Some careers, if you want to progress, if you want to do well, you need to think emotionally. You're not going to get very far working with children if you can't be empathetic and emotional with them. You're not going to get very far if you're a psychiatrist working with patients, if you're a carer working with elderly or ill people, if you can't be emotional and empathetic. That's why I think the people who do best in most jobs are the ones who can balance it out depending on what their job needs. So again, my point is, gender shouldn't affect whether you have a career or not. This is the point I keep getting back to. To me, it's just so silly and it's stupid and short-sighted to say that a career is purely a man's role, because it's not. Laurie goes on to argue that apparently when women want jobs, we're trying to take the men's roles, we're trying to pretend to be men, we're trying to something act like men. I don't know. Her argument's stupid. I can tell you for a fact, I personally enjoy my career because it makes me happy, because it leaves me fulfilled. It challenges me, it gives me something to do. I enjoy creating things. I'm not trying to be a man. I'm very, very comfortable being a woman. I love my femininity. I'm very happy with who I am and the body I'm in. The fact that I want to be paid for my labor doesn't mean I'm trying to pretend I've got a penis. It means I want to be treated like any other adult in the world. As an individual, I want to spend my days doing something I enjoy. I want to spend my days being challenged. I want to spend my days growing and improving who I am as a person and trying to improve the world around me. I want to spend my life being financially independent. I want the opportunity to, if something happens to Dan in his job, be able to step up and support my family by myself if I have to. I want my career so that I can pay my way in my family as much as Dan does. We're both adults, why shouldn't we both contribute when we're able to? I want to be an individual person who happens to share her life with a man. I don't want to spend my life being an extension of Dan. I want to be so much more than Dan's girlfriend, Dan's wife, Dan's whatever. I want to be Rachel, who does her own thing, who happens to be with Dan. That's the person I want to be, and that's what I'm going to keep working towards every day. I don't just want to be a part of someone else. I want to be my own person, and there shouldn't be anything wrong with that. That's not me trying to be a man. It's not me trying to take something away from a man or from Dan or whatever. By me stepping up and being an individual and having my own career and my own life, as a woman, I am not taking anything from men. I'm not stepping on men's toes. I'm simply doing something at the same time as them, alongside of them. And everyone builds each other up. That's the way it should be. It's not a competition between the genders. The only person trying to make it a war between the sexes here is someone like you, Laurie. Back to the blog post, and we haven't even scratched the surface on this yet. This video is just me ranting, basically. I'm sorry, guys. But Laurie writes, take this example of what's been spread around Facebook. A man named Brian wrote, "No man working 40 hours a week want to come home to a Hot Pocket and a fruit punch." A woman named Jessica responded to him, "No woman working 40 plus hours a week want to come home to sweep, mop, dust, vacuum, wash and fold laundry, scrub tubs, toilets, cook, flipping pot roast with sides and have to clean the flipping kitchen." But here we are. So much to unpack here, especially in regards to like what Laurie is criticizing and stuff. But I don't get why this is a gendered thing at all. I think both of them make good points, but it doesn't have to be a gender thing. How about we just argue that for people working full-time jobs, yeah, no one wants to come home after a full day's work and then start cooking and cleaning and doing all the housework themselves. But similarly, it's not pleasant to come home after a full day's work and have to eat crappy processed food that's just like manky and gross and you just microwave it. Like, no one wants that. It's unpleasant for everyone. But it's not a gender thing. Just no one wants to do that. I don't get the man who's commenting here. It's almost like he's complaining because he feels that if he works a full-time job, he's somehow entitled to come home and then have like dinner on the table, like this home-cooked meal on the table. It's like he thinks that by working a job during the day, he's somehow entitled to like a slave at home or a servant at home who's just going to look after him. No, I'm sorry, but part of being an adult is you do that stuff for yourself. Just because you work a job, you're not entitled to anything at home. Do it for yourself like everyone else has to. Be an adult. Back when I worked in Oxford a few years back, so we're talking like my early 20s now, like way before I met Dan and stuff, I worked over in Wallingford, and so getting to work was a nightmare. I used to have to cycle like 20 minutes to the bus stop and then get a 50-minute bus to the office. So every day I'd be travelling to and from work for about probably 2.5 hours. I'd work 9 while 6 in the office, and then I'd get home probably like 7:30 at night, and I lived completely by myself. I had this like little tiny studio flat to myself, which I did love, and I love living by myself. But yeah, after being out of the house for 12 hours, I'd have to come home and cook for myself and clean for myself and do everything for myself. And no, it wasn't pleasant. But I did it because it's part of being a responsible adult. And like, what other choice did I have? I'm not going to pretend I'm all entitled and expect someone else to do all the housework for me just because I'm working a job. It's part of being an adult. And like, I don't know about anyone else, but just me personally, I don't get anything out of housework. I really don't enjoy it that much. I don't find it that fun. I find it very monotonous, very boring. I'm just like, meh, take it or leave it, basically. I do like cooking, but again, when you've been at work all day and you're tired, it's not always nice to come home and like have to start doing a whole meal and whatever. It is exhausting, it's tiring. I get that. But I would much rather I'm challenged and I enjoy myself during the day and I'm working a job that I love, and then I have to come home and do crappy stuff. I'd much rather like have that balance than I was just stuck at home by myself all day, cooking and cleaning. That would be so boring. So boring. So the woman that Laurie quoted in this blog post, replied to the comment, I think she brings up a great point where she's like, you know, women work too, so why should we come home and be the ones who have to do all the cooking and cleaning and housework? Why can't we share it, basically? If 2 people are working full-time, if 2 people have careers, why can't they share the housework stuff? Which I think is a fantastic point. I think it's great. A lot of sociologists talk about this idea of like a dual burden, or in some cases like a triple burden, they think, that women have. It was kind of mostly sort of back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, that kind of stuff, when women kind of started working more often, working jobs, whether it was part-time or full-time. They said that women took on a kind of dual burden where even though they were working an actual job, they also still had to look after the house and the children at home, take on the main roles there. So this idea that women were kind of doing more than men, kind of. It's less the case now, I think, because, you know, things like housework are shared a lot more. But either way, I think it's still a point that's worth talking about. And I think when there are men or women out there who think that housework is just a woman's role, yeah, I think it's worth bringing up and saying, like, well, if a woman's working and you're both sharing the financial burden of working, why can't you share the housework burden of cleaning if you're in a couple, you know? I don't get why, for people like Laurie, it's so difficult to ask all the adults who share a living space to contribute to its upkeep. I don't get why that's so, like, difficult or radical or whatever, you know? Again, this is why things kind of like are so easy at home with me and Dan, because he works 9 while 6 in the office. He works like 15 minutes that way on the train, which is great. It's so close. He's home by like 6:30 most nights. We take Carrie to the park. I work here in my office most days, like from whenever I wake up until like 6:30-ish. Sometimes I work later, sometimes I don't, whatever. But the point is, like, and then in the evenings, once we're both done working, we cook a meal together. He does the chopping, I do the cooking. We take it in turns to fill the dishwasher. He takes out the bins, I clean the kitchen surfaces. Like, we split it up because that's what adults do. They take care of their own lives and their own things. Like, it's not that difficult. And I know for a fact Dan doesn't resent having to put the dishwasher on 3 nights a week because that would be really immature. Splitting everything between us, regardless of gender, means everything just gets done so much quicker and easier, and everything's just simple. Laurie seems to think it's so impossible to, eat nice quality home-cooked food if you work a full-time job. But for us, again, it's easy because maybe if it was just me, I'd get tired of it. If I was working every day and then having to be the only one cooking every night, yeah, I'd probably be tired and frustrated. But because me and Dan share it, it halves the burden, and it means we both eat really nice, healthy, home-cooked, nutritious food every night, and we both work. It's as simple as that. I think if me and Dan switched and we lived by Laurie's rules and her way of life, oh God, we would be so unhappy. We would hate it, I'll be honest. Because, for one thing, if we didn't have my income coming in, if I wasn't working, we would not be able to afford this flat, so we'd have to move. We'd move somewhere smaller, and we'd probably move somewhere further away from Dan, so he'd have a longer commute every day. He would be so miserable with that, because, commuting in London isn't the most fun. I would be probably really bored every day, really lonely, really fed up. I wouldn't feel challenged by anything. Everything would just be kind of boring and monotonous and the same. What would I get out of life? Oh, it'd be so dull. It's just not worth it. And what would change for Dan if he didn't have to do any of the housework? He wouldn't take the bins out once a week. He wouldn't have to hoover the house once a week. And he probably wouldn't have to put the dishwasher on 3 nights a week. And you wouldn't have to chop some vegetables. I don't think losing out on my annual income, probably switching up where we live, and me being a moody, grumpy person all the time because I was unhappy in my life, all of that is not worth it so Dan can have an extra 20 minutes a night on the PlayStation. I do not think Laurie's way of life would suit us at all. God, we'd both be miserable. We really would. Anyway, back to the article, and of course, Laurie, the transformed wife, she thinks she knows best. She goes on to criticize the woman by pointing out the flaw in her way of thinking, by saying, Ryan is right. Most men who work 40 hours a week don't want to come home to a microwave meal and fruit punch night after night. But the reaction he received from women is expected. Outrage. Jessica shares the feminist reaction loudly and clearly. Since she works 40 hours a week, she doesn't want to come home and do housework. If she's a full-time housekeeper at home, as God has commanded women to be, she would have plenty of time during the day to sweep, mop, dust, vacuum, wash, and fold laundry, scrub tubs, toilets, cook a pot roast with sides, and have time to clean the kitchen. Yeah, you know what? You're right. She might have time to do all that, but would she be happy? Would she be fulfilled? Would she feel good about herself? Would she enjoy her life? Nah, I doubt it. I really doubt it. Hell, could she even afford to have that lifestyle? I don't think so. Most families now need both incomes to be able to live and survive. And there's nothing wrong with, even if you need the money or not, there's nothing wrong with enjoying your job and enjoying what you do. And she goes on and she says, God's role for women and men create peace and order when they are followed. Women are called to be their husband's helpmeet, be keepers at home, and look well to the ways of their household. They are called to work hard in the home and not eat the bread of idleness. This is God's ministry for women. Men are to be the providers for their families. When each knows their role, there is no confusion, anger, or strife. Thing is, this might work for some families, and that's absolutely okay, but it doesn't work for all of them, and it doesn't have to work for all of them. It's completely okay for families and individuals to figure out what works best for them and do that. There's no one right way, and there doesn't have to be. It's such a narrow-minded view, though. It completely ignores same-sex couples, it ignores trans people, it ignores single parents, it ignores single people, it ignores people who are child-free. It just ignores so many different kinds of lifestyle, and yeah, like I say, it's so narrow-minded and outdated, and it's ridiculous. God's roles for men and women might create peace and order for you, Laurie, but I know for a fact that it would lead to a more difficult life for me. It would lead to a boring life, a monotonous life, and honestly, I think both me and Dan would feel a little bit of resentment if I was just at home looking after the house every day. For you, the only way to avoid confusion, anger, and strife may be to follow these very specific traditional gender roles. And that's okay for you, but I know for a fact in my family, the way to avoid confusion, anger, and strife is to just share things. It's to live equally. It's to treat each other as equal adults, not like master and servant. Our life of sharing things, doing things equally, of sharing the financial burden and sharing the household work, this works for us and this is fine. Will it work for every family? No. Does it have to work for every family? No. That's the point. Different families can figure out what works best for them and do that. What's important is that as a family unit, you work through things together, you discuss things together, you figure out what's best together, and it's okay if you want to try something different. There are no strict rules you have to follow. With families, it's never one size fits all. You just have to figure out what works for your family, and what works for you one year might not work 3 years in the future, and that's okay. Things can change and adapt, and your ways of living can change and adapt. And Laurie just seems to think it's like it has to be this very rigid, strict structure. And if you don't follow this, then, you're all going to be unhappy and burn in hell and, The big thing that annoyed me was this next bit in the blog post that says, another thing about this comment from Jessica, I am shocked how women talk to men these days. Even on my Facebook page, they have no problem scolding, correcting, and trying to humiliate the men. The language is often foul, and they are far from what God calls them to be. Women with meek and quiet spirits. This is a feminist spirit, women. We should talk to no one in this way, especially men that we don't even know. What Laurie actually means here is that she doesn't think women should be allowed opinions of their own. She doesn't think we should be allowed to express those opinions. She doesn't think we should be able to stand up for ourselves and speak out for ourselves, especially when it means disagreeing with her opinions or the opinions of men. I do agree that I don't think people should go out of their way to try and humiliate anyone or make anyone feel bad about themselves. I agree on that point. Also, I do think at times swearing isn't necessary, but it really doesn't bother me if people want to do it or not. But again, I think these rules should be, or not rules, but I think these ways of speaking to people respectfully and kindly, even when you disagree with them, they should be there regardless of your gender. It's not just, women, don't you dare speak back to men. It should be, look, it's okay to disagree with someone. It's okay to debate with someone. Just do it respectfully and nicely, I hate this idea of, women should be meek and quiet. Yes, some people are meek and quiet, and that's okay. But some people are just naturally loud and opinionated, and that's okay too. It shouldn't be a gendered thing again. People should just be able to express themselves wherever and whenever they want, as long as they do it respectfully. All this oh, how dare you, a lowly woman, speak to this superior male being. It's also pathetic and silly, and I really hate this kind of view. Everyone has a right to critique the ideas of others and debate with them on these ideas. Men don't get a pass to do it because they're men, and women shouldn't be told we can't because we're women. She goes on to say, we are to be known for our kindness, not for putting men in their place and giving them a piece of our mind. Let us not do anything to perpetuate the war between the sexes. You can still be a kind person and share your opinions with someone. And I don't know what kind of insecure boys you've been around, Laurie, but all my male friends absolutely love debates and being challenged. And when someone says, no, hang on a minute, I don't fully agree with you there, regardless of who's saying it to them, I don't know any men who would feel insecure about a woman saying, I don't agree with that to them. Laurie says that she doesn't think us women should do anything to perpetuate the war between the sexes. But what I think she means is that you don't want women to upset any insecure little boys in their life. You don't want women to upset the status quo with any little boys who think they have some superiority over us just because they have a penis. But I guess that's the difference between the boys in Laurie's life and the men in my life. All the men I'm friends with are incredible, strong, confident, kind-hearted, sweet, caring individuals. They would never feel insecure about anyone, man or woman, saying to them, hang on a minute, I want to challenge you on this idea. No one would feel insecure about that. No one would feel bad about that. No one would feel like they were being spoken down to and humiliated because someone said that to them. I don't know a single man in my life who would feel that their masculinity was being challenged if their partner said to them, oh, do you mind putting dishwasher on tonight? And this is what I mean. If something as small as being asked to do your portion of the housework makes you feel insecure about your masculinity, then I think that says more about you and your insecurities than it does about the war of the sexes or whatever. I don't think the path to any kind of like happy, fulfilling relationship, whether that be like a partnership like me and Dan, or a friendship, or a family relationship, whatever, I don't think you can ever have a real, true, fulfilled relationship if, especially not between like a man and a woman, if it involves the man being the strong in charge one, and then the woman being this quiet, timid, meek yes man who's just like, yes sir, I agree with everything you say. You can't have a real relationship or friendship based on that. It's silly. A true friendship or relationship is about mutual respect and helping each other grow, and sometimes that does mean challenging each other. So just to give you an example of this that isn't just about Dan for once, but like one of the people I'm kind of like closest to in my life at the minute is my friend Caleb, and Laurie would already hate me being friends with him, right, because he's a married man, and the fact that I, an unmarried woman in a relationship and spending time alone with a married man clearly makes me a harlot, right? Like, how dare I have friends? Me and Dan are friends with both him and his wife, and they're absolutely lovely. But, like, me and Caleb are really good friends at the minute, and we, like, go for coffee every week, and we, like, nerd out over business stuff. And, like, I love our friendship because he always challenges me, and I always challenge him. It's like we have kind of different areas that we specialise in. And because, you know, he's a little bit older than me, he's worked in a lot more kind of different businesses and done a lot more things than me, and he can teach me a hell of a lot, and he does. Whereas, like, I have a lot more experience than him in the social media side of stuff, in the digital marketing side of stuff, in the kind of consumer behaviour side of stuff. So where sometimes I'll be like, I have no idea how to do these tax forms, can you help me? And he's like, yeah, sure, I'll tell you what to fill in here. Sometimes he's like, I have no idea what I'm doing with this YouTube channel, can you help? And I'm like, yeah, sure, let's have a look at this. And we challenge each other and we help each other. And we have like these big kind of like deep discussions about stuff, and we don't agree on everything. So we have some very heated debates over hot chocolate sometimes, but I absolutely love it. It's all done with like mutual respect, but I think we really kind of like help each other grow as friends. And that's exactly what I want in a friendship. I don't just want someone who's going to tell me what to do all the time. And I know for a fact he doesn't want a friend who's just going to say, yes, Caleb, I completely agree with you, Caleb. Because that would be stupid, and neither of us would grow from that. It would be ridiculous. And also, that would be an incredibly boring friendship, and I don't think we'd be going for coffee again. Anyway, back to Laurie Alexander, and she just ends the article with a bunch of Bible quotes, because she has no foundation for any of her opinions other than quoting the Bible. Because, you know, there's no actual logical or rational reason to think this way. There's no real evidence to support anything she says, or any, you know, evidence of her view being the only good one, so she has nothing. Anyway, I feel like this was a little bit more of like just a video of me ranting, and a video of me kind of like telling stories and talking about stuff. Yeah, it really annoys me when people are like, women, you have to be this quiet, meek homemaker who just pops out babies and raises them. Because I'm like, no, screw that. There's so many more ways to live your life. And I don't care if you're a man or a woman, or if you identify as something in between. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care about gender. I just think all people should be able to live their lives to the fullest and do what makes them happy and find what makes them happy and just live lives that they enjoy. And there's no one right way to do that. That's basically all I have to say on this. I know this is a little bit rambly, but you know, thanks for listening to me. Thanks for putting up with me. Before I end this, if you like this video and you're new here, please remember to subscribe to my channel, because I always forget to ask people to do that. And then some people are like, oh, I've been watching your video for like 3 months and I haven't subscribed. I'm like, it's okay. But yeah, if you want to subscribe, that would be nice. Also, if you like my stuff and you want to kind of like see more stuff from me, not just, you know, these video rants, but like lots of stuff, you can go follow me on Instagram. It's like the social media platform I use most. Mostly it's just me posting photos of Kyra, or posting about makeup, or posting about books I've read, or sometimes posting some food, or posting pictures of Dan and Kyra, or Kyra in the park, or Kyra's sleeping. It's mostly Kyra, I'll be honest. But if you want to go follow me on Instagram, you can do. My username is Rachel Oates, but with a 0 instead of an O, because I'm really annoying like that. And I would really, really appreciate if you could give me a follow on there. I'm being really awkward and rambly now. I'm sorry. I feel like taking a week off from filming has just left me being really, really awkward and weird in front of the camera. Also, it doesn't help that my voice still doesn't sound like my voice. And I just sound a bit silly, don't I? Anyway, I'm shutting up now. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it through this far. You guys are the best. I really appreciate you guys, and I'll see you again soon.
Thank you so much to everyone who watched today and to everyone who is supporting me on Patreon this month, including Gambit and Chauffeur, Deshauwn, Christian Berg, Rachel B. Royer, Jadeon Sheppard, Corthee, Jaylee Moore, Sir Michael Moore, Christian Opitz, Sage Villarreal, Greg Ladd, Spencer Young, and Loren Hart. And to everyone else who's mentioned on this end screen and down in the description below, thank you so much. And to everyone who watches my channel, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays and just a wonderful little December. And thank you all so much.